Hey, my name is Owen Bray. I'm 29 years old, and I live in the lower unit of a duplex on the south end of Callaway Street in Greer Falls, Wisconsin, a city that used to have a paper mill and now has the particular quality of a place still deciding what it is. My unit is on the ground floor. There's a shared porch out front with two mismatched chairs that were there when I moved in, and a narrow side yard where the previous tenant left a rosebush nobody planted intentionally. It comes back every spring. I stopped being surprised by it after the second year. Now it just feels like something the yard decided for itself. I work for a residential electrical crew. We do service upgrades, panel replacements, rewiring on older houses. The kind of work that involves going into walls and finding things the original builder hid in there that were never a good idea. I work for a man named Dale Pfeiffer, who has been doing this for 31 years and has the hands to prove it. And I've been with him going on 5 years now. We have 2 other crew members and a work truck that smells like wire insulation and coffee, and on cold mornings, whatever Dale's been eating in the cab since before most people's alarms go off. The work is physical and methodical, and occasionally dangerous in the specific way electrical work is dangerous, which is that you can do everything right and still find something live where it has no business being, because houses lie. Old houses especially. They have decades of previous decisions built into them, some clever, some made by people who were either in a hurry or simply didn't care what happened to the house after they left. My job is to go in and read what's actually there, not what the diagram says should be there, and then make it right. I like that about the work. I like that the house eventually tells you the truth, no matter how long it's been hiding something. My days look like this. Up at 6. On site by 7:30. Home by 4:30 or 5, depending on what we found in the walls. I keep the apartment clean in the way of someone who doesn't own enough things to make it messy. I cook on weekdays. On Saturday nights, I get food from the Vietnamese place on the corner because I've been doing it long enough that they start making my order when they see me come through the door, which is either a sign of loyalty or a sign that my life has gotten a little narrow, and I try not to spend too much time deciding which. Sundays I run and read and fix things around the building that the landlord keeps not getting to. The phone doesn't ring much after 9. My brother in Milwaukee asks every few months whether I'm coming for Christmas. I say probably. He says okay. I usually go. I've been in Greer Falls for 3 years. I came for the job when a good opportunity opened up, and I stayed because staying was easier than deciding to leave, and because after a while the city started to feel like mine in small, specific ways. The Vietnamese place. The riverbank route I run on Sunday mornings. The light on Callaway Street in October when the maple at the corner turns and everything goes amber for about 10 days before the leaves come down. Small accretions. But they add up to a life if you let them, and I'd been letting them. The upper unit of the duplex had been empty for 7 months when a moving truck came on a Thursday afternoon in early April. I was at the front window when it pulled up, not watching on purpose, but not watching either. 2 people got out. A woman in her early 30s, I'd guess 32 or 33, carrying a box that was clearly too heavy for her. Making adjustments to her grip with the expression of someone who has decided she can manage a thing and will continue to decide this until the evidence becomes overwhelming. And a little girl who appeared to be about 5, holding a stuffed rabbit by one ear with one hand and standing in the middle of the sidewalk supervising everything with the focused seriousness of someone who has been placed in charge and is not taking this lightly. I watched for a few minutes without meaning to. The woman was managing the box. a phone call, and some ongoing negotiation with the little girl about which items were fragile and needed to be treated accordingly, all three at the same time. In the seamless, overloaded way of someone who's been doing everything simultaneously for so long that doing only one thing would feel wrong. She was wearing a gray sweatshirt and jeans with paint on the knee and sneakers that had been good a couple years ago and were now just showing up. Her hair was up and dark, and several pieces of it had come loose, and she hadn't gotten around to fixing that. She looked capable and tired in equal measure, the way you look when you have been capable for a long time, and it has cost you something. The little girl turned around and saw me at the window. She waved with her whole arm, the complete, unself-conscious commitment of someone who hasn't learned to make it smaller yet. I waved back. She made some kind of decision about me, nodded once with an expression that was completely sincere about its own gravity, and returned her attention to the moving truck. I went outside about an hour later. Stated purpose: the mail. Actual purpose: my mother raised me in such a way that I cannot watch a single woman move heavy furniture into a building I live in without at least going outside and saying I could help. The woman was at the back of the truck, braced against a bookshelf, trying to angle it around the tailgate in a way that wasn't quite working. The little girl was on the porch steps with her rabbit, watching developments. "Need a hand?" I said. The woman looked at me. Quick assessment. The kind that happens when you're alone with a small child and a stranger appears and offers something. I've been on the receiving end of that look before, and I understand it and try to let it happen without comment. "I've almost got it," she said. This was technically an optimistic reading of the situation. "I'm Owen," I said. "Lower unit. I'm an electrician." She stopped and looked at me differently. "Why is electrician part of your introduction?" "I'm not entirely sure," I said. "I say it sometimes. I think because it explains the hands." I held them up, the hands of someone who has pulled wire through old walls and caught more ceiling joists with his knuckles than he can count. Something loosened slightly in her expression. Not warmth yet, but the absence of wariness. "I'm Maeve," she said. "That's Lily." "Hi, Lily," I said. Lily studied me from the porch steps. "Owen is a good name," she said. "My rabbit is Walter." "Walter is an excellent name," I said. She considered this. "I know," she said, and she turned back to observing the truck. I helped carry the bookshelf up the stairs, then 3 boxes, then a floor lamp that had been wrapped in so much packing paper it looked like a very tall, confused present. Maeve moved through the apartment with the efficiency of someone who had done this before, more than once, by herself, and had therefore stopped second-guessing where things went. She knew the layout already, or had decided it. She thanked me when we were done in the brief, genuine way of someone who means it and doesn't dress it up. I went back downstairs. Lily waved at me from the upstairs window when I looked up from the front walk. That night I thought about them the way you think about something new that's appeared in a space you were used to, with a mild, involuntary awareness. Then I went to sleep, and got up, and went to work. I did not go looking for reasons to know them. I want to be clear about that, because it matters for understanding what came later. I was a person who lived below them, and living below someone means you exist in proximity to their life whether either of you chooses it or not. I heard Lily's feet on the floor above me in the mornings, a fast, purposeful pattern I came to recognize as her running from her room to her mother's room to announce that she was awake. I heard Maeve's voice in the evenings, too low for words but audible in rhythm, reading aloud, patient and unhurried, the last thing before the building went quiet. We talked when we ran into each other, at the mailboxes on the covered section of the porch. at the side door that stuck on wet days, and which I had repaired twice without mentioning it to Maeve until she said one morning, "That door just started working again. Did something happen?" And I said I'd fixed it, and she said, "So that's why I stopped having to fight it every morning," in the tone of someone doing math about how many mornings that had been. She was a nurse. Pediatric ward at Greer Falls Regional. 4 days a week on a schedule that had her dropping Lily at a neighbor named Patrice's on the mornings she had early shifts, and coming home after 9 on late shift nights. A slower, heavier sound on the stairs than her usual pace. I recognized the specific weight of a long shift in those footsteps. I'd heard it enough to know what kind of day she'd had before she was inside her door. One evening in late May, she knocked on my door holding a pot in both hands, with the expression of someone who has decided to do something and is not going to overthink it. "I made too much soup," she said. "Chicken and white bean. If you want." I took the pot. "You didn't have to do that." "No," she agreed. "But I did." She went back upstairs. I ate it standing at my kitchen counter, because I've still never bought a kitchen table and couldn't figure out where to put one. It was the best thing I'd had in months, not because it was fancy, but because it had been made with attention. The way things taste when someone was thinking about something other than efficiency when they put it together. I washed the pot the next morning and set it outside her door. Lily came downstairs 2 days later. She stood in my doorway and told me that returning a pot empty was a missed opportunity. She used those exact words, with the confidence of someone quoting something recently learned and finding it immediately useful. She also said she was working on a portrait of Walter that I could have when the ears were finished. Ears were technically difficult. She'd need more time. "Take all the time you need," I said. "I will," she said. And she went back upstairs. I stayed in my doorway for a moment after she left. Something had taken up residence, small and patient, the way things do when they aren't rushing toward anything. Summer in Greer Falls is slow and certain, and I want to tell you about it, because it matters. The neighborhood on Callaway Street became a different thing in June. People on their porches in the evenings. Someone's grill 2 houses down every Friday night. The maple at the corner full and green, and throwing a good shadow that Lily found useful for projects whose purpose I wasn't always clear on, but which she explained in detail whenever I was nearby. The porch was shared space, technically, 2 chairs, one on each side, the door between us. In June, Maeve and I started to just be out there at the same time in the evenings, she with a book after Lily was in bed, me with nothing in particular, both of us in the low gear that the end of a survived day allows for. Those conversations were different from daytime talking. Less performance in them. Nobody was managing anything. I learned her in the way you learn someone when you're not trying to impress them, in pieces, over time, through the small signals. She drank her coffee fast and standing up, 2-handed, like it was a task rather than a pleasure. She had a dry humor that appeared unexpectedly in the middle of serious sentences, quiet enough that you could miss it if you weren't paying close attention. I tried to pay close attention. She had the particular ease of someone who has been in rooms when things were frightening and has developed the ability to stay level when other people can't. Not coldness, just steadiness. The practical version of bravery. She'd grown up in Racine, nursing school in Madison, 4 years in Milwaukee. Lily's father had been in her life for the first 3 of Lily's years, and then in it less, and then not in it, and she described this the way she described everything difficult, plainly, in the tone of someone who has processed a thing thoroughly enough to report on it, without being undone by the reporting. "He's not a bad person," she said once. "He just wasn't built for the life that came with it." She paused. Some people aren't. Better to know. I told her about the houses, about finding what's been hidden in the walls, about the way a system that was almost right can run for decades before the almost catches up with it, about the moment in a job when you finally see the whole circuit, where it goes, what it's been doing, why the light in the kitchen has been flickering for 15 years, and you understand it, and then you can fix it. You love it, she said once. Not as a compliment, just as an observation. I do, I said. The problem is always real. The fix is always real. You can walk out at the end of the day and something is different than it was. She was quiet for a moment. That's what I like about the job too, she said. Not the paperwork, not the system. Just that I can be in a room with a frightened child and make it a little less frightening. Something real happened. We sat with that. The street below was dark and quiet. I was aware of the specific quality of sitting with someone where silence doesn't need to be filled, which is something I hadn't had in a while and had stopped noticing I'd been missing. Lily gave me the portrait of Walter in late July. The ears were very large, very deliberate, executed with the patience of someone who had known the difficulty and had not let it discourage them. I hung it on the refrigerator with a Wisconsin magnet. When Lily saw it there on her next visit downstairs, she came down approximately every third day to report on something. She nodded with complete satisfaction, the nod of someone who has placed something in trusted hands. His right ear is slightly bigger, she told me. I noticed, I said. I think it suits him. She thought about this. Yes, she said. He is asymmetrical. She said the word carefully, as if it was new and she was road testing it. Then she went back upstairs. I stood in the kitchen for a moment after she was gone. Something I didn't have a name for, yet sat in my chest in the place where a diagnosis goes before you know what to call it. In August, a man named Craig came to visit. I didn't know his name at first. I heard a voice I didn't recognize on the porch above mine on a Friday evening. A low, easy voice that belonged to someone comfortable in his own presence. I heard Maeve laugh, the real one, the one that caught her off guard. I was in my kitchen making dinner and I heard it through the ceiling, and I told myself it was none of my business, and I finished making dinner. Saturday morning I was leaving early for a job site, and he was on the front porch with Maeve, both of them with coffee. And he was the kind of tall and easy smiling that people are when they've never had much reason to doubt that rooms will receive them well. He shook my hand when Maeve introduced us. Strong handshake, practiced. He held my eye. I said good to meet you and got in the truck. The job that day was a fuse panel in a 1950s brick bungalow, the kind of house that was built to last and has been added onto carelessly several times since, by people who didn't talk to each other. Dale and I spent the morning tracing what was supposed to be one circuit and turned out to be three, combined in a way that had no logic except the logic of someone who'd been in a hurry and hadn't come back. Dale asked me at noon if I was all right. I said I was fine. He looked at me the way he looks at junction boxes that have been taped shut, meaning, I see you, and I'm not convinced, but okay. I drove home Saturday evening. The porch was empty. I made food I didn't particularly want and ate it at my kitchen counter. I told myself the feeling was something I didn't have a right to, and that was correct. But correctness and feeling don't always move at the same speed. Sunday morning, Maeve was on her side of the porch when I came out for my run. Alone, reading or trying to. She looked up when the door opened. I said good morning, and she said good morning, and the quality of the silence between those two things had something in it I couldn't read yet. I ran 6 miles and came home, and the truck Craig had arrived in was gone. I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. But that evening on the porch, she was different. Not toward me in the comfortable, familiar way we'd built, but toward herself, as if she'd made a decision, and the decision had clarified something. She looked up from her book at one point and said, "You fixed the mailbox latch." "Last week," I said. "You fix everything in this building," she said. "Does Dale know you do this for free in your off hours?" "It's not for free," I said. "The landlord takes it off the rent." She looked at me. "You negotiated that?" "I told him I'd fix things, or he'd have to find someone else to fix things," I said. He ran the numbers. She looked at me for another moment with the assessing look, the one she used when she was arriving at a conclusion, and then she went back to reading. I sat with the lamp of the porch light and the late August warmth, and the maple moving slightly in the end of summer, and I thought, "Say something, Owen. You are going to look back at every one of these evenings and wish you'd said something." I didn't say anything. I was slow. I am working to explain this fairly. September came in hard, the way it comes in Wisconsin, overnight, without transition, as if it had been waiting just out of frame and finally stopped holding itself back. The maple started its turn. The evenings went short and cold-edged. Lily started first grade and reported on it with the thoroughness of someone filing daily dispatches, which included assessments of her teacher, reviews of the other children's personalities, and opinions on the curriculum that were specific, and not without merit. On a Tuesday morning in the second week of September, I was leaving late. Dale had a morning appointment. The job didn't start until 9, and I came out the front door with my travel mug to find Lily on the front walk already, backpack on, Walter under one arm. Ready before she needed to be, as she always was, like a one-person advance team. "Owen," she said, in the tone she used when she'd been saving something. "Hey, Lily." She looked up at me with all of her attention, the way she had on the day I'd first met her, the same complete sincerity. "My mom cries every time she sees you leave," she said. "I saw her. From the kitchen. Last Tuesday, and also the Tuesday before." Every part of me stopped. Behind Lily, the front door opened and Maeve came out. I looked up, and in the half-second before she could put her expression in order, I saw everything she'd been carrying. The color that had come up in her face, the hand that found the door frame, the look of a person who has just had something private made public by someone who doesn't yet understand why it was private. The helpless, specific quality of being a person with a 6-year-old. "Lily," she said, in the steadied voice she used when she needed another few seconds to catch up to a situation. "What?" Lily said. "He should know. You're sad when he leaves." "We're going to be late," Maeve said. She was not looking at me. I could have let it go. Could have made some easy sound and gotten in the truck and given us both the grace of the moment not having happened. I stood there and felt the weight of every evening I hadn't said anything, and I said, "Maeve." She looked at me. Her expression had gone to the careful version, the one that was doing a lot of work. "Tonight," I said. "Can we talk?" A pause that lasted about 3 seconds and felt like considerably more. "Yes," she said. She came down the steps and took Lily's hand, and they walked up the street toward Patrice's. Lily looked back once at the corner and gave me the full arm wave, with, I thought, a quality of mission accomplished in it. I stood on the front walk until they turned the corner. Then I got in the truck and sat there for a moment before I started it. I spent the day in a 1940s colonial in the Maplewood neighborhood, chasing a circuit that appeared in 3 rooms where it shouldn't have been and was absent from the one it was supposed to serve. It took me 6 hours to trace it. Dale watched me work with the patience he brings to jobs that are going to take as long as they're going to take. At one point he said, Wherever your head is, bring it back. And I brought it back. I found the circuit. I made it right. I drove home at 5. She was on the porch, both hands around a mug. The book was on the chair beside her, but she wasn't reading it. I sat down in the other chair. The September evening had the specific quality of the first cool ones, still warm in the direct light, cold in the shade. The maple at the corner having gone entirely into its turn now, full amber. The kind of amber that makes everything else look like it's lit from within. I want to say something I've been careful about saying, I said. She looked at me. I've been careful because I didn't want to complicate your situation. You came here with Lily and a full plate, and I didn't think it was my place to add to the weight of it. I stopped, but I've been using that as an explanation when really it was that I was afraid the feeling was mine alone, that I'd been reading the porch evenings as something they weren't, that if I said it, you'd have to find a way to let me down gently, and then we'd lose everything we'd built, which was worth more to me than the alternative. I paused. And then Lily said what she said this morning. The corner of her mouth moved slightly. She has very strong opinions about efficiency. She does, I said. She told me returning a pot empty was a missed opportunity. She got that from Patrice, Maeve said. Patrice says it about everything. She's not wrong, I said. Maeve looked at her mug for a moment. Can I tell you about Craig? She said. You don't have to. I want to. She looked up. He came here because I called him. He's someone I've known a long time, and I called him in July because I needed to figure out if what I was feeling. Whenever I saw your truck in the driveway, whenever I heard you on the stairs, whenever I was on this porch and heard your door, whether that was just about missing having someone around in general, whether I was just lonely and attaching it to the nearest person. She was very steady. He came and he was kind, and there was nothing there that I was looking for. And I came back more certain. She met my eyes. It's not general, it's specific. It's you. Something released in my chest. I should have said something in May, I said. You should have said something in June, she said. At least. I was slow. You were very slow. The small smile came up, genuine, contained. But you fix things. I'll take the trade-off. I reached across the arm of the chair and put my hand over hers. She turned her hand over and her fingers closed through mine. And we sat like that while the amber light on the street went deeper and the maple did what it had been doing for the 10 days every year, that it was everything all at once. I've been watching you leave every morning for 6 months, she said quietly. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. You're not going to cry when I leave anymore? I said. She looked at me. I'm going to know you're coming back, she said. That's different. I stayed for dinner. Lily received this development with the composure of someone watching a long-anticipated outcome finally occur. She had laid 3 places at the table. She said nothing about this directly, but the satisfaction was visible. She told us about school while we ate. She told us that Walter had had a difficult week, but was managing. She had a theory about why the rose bush in the side yard came back without anyone planting it. She'd read something in a book at Patrice's. I said I'd be interested to hear the theory. She presented it in full, with supporting evidence from the book and from her own observations over the summer. And I listened to all of it. And Maeve sat across from me with her chin in her hand, watching her daughter with the specific quality of love that has been refined by the particular difficulty of loving something that small and that remarkable. And she caught my eye once, and I understood what I was being given. That was September. October, I painted the porch. Both sides. New color. Took 2 evenings. November, I replaced the lock on the side door with one that worked in the rain without drama. December, I drove to Milwaukee with Maeve and Lily for my brother's Christmas. My sister-in-law pulled me into the kitchen and said, "Those are good ones, Owen." I said I knew. She said, "Don't be slow then." And I said, "I heard you." By February, the rose bush in the side yard was still under its wrap, and Lily was keeping a notebook about the spring plan for it, and Maeve's schedule had shifted to something that meant more evenings at home, which changed the quality of the building, what it felt like to come through the front door, what it meant that the lights were on upstairs, the sounds above me on weekend mornings when they were both in the kitchen and Lily was narrating the proceedings. On a Sunday evening in early March, we sat on the porch in the first evening of the year that was warm enough for it, just barely, in the right coats. She was reading. I was watching the maple at the corner, which was still bare but had already made its decision about what it was going to do. Trees are like certain systems I work on, quiet for a long time and then all the decision-making happens at once in a window you almost miss if you're not paying attention. "You're staring at a tree," she said without looking up. "I'm reading it." "Electricians read trees?" "I read things," I said. "That tree has been through a lot of hard winters. The structure is good. It knows what it's doing." She looked at me over her book, and the smile came up. The real one, the unperformed one, the one she gave to things that were actually true, and she went back to reading. I stayed out after she went in. The street was dark and quiet, and the just warm March air had the quality of a system coming back online after a long cold period, the particular aliveness of something that has been waiting and is now beginning again. I had spent 3 years in this city building a life from small things. The Vietnamese place, the Sunday miles along the river, the October light on Calloway Street, and then a moving truck had come on a Thursday in April, and a woman had carried a too heavy box, and a little girl had waved with her whole arm and decided something about me in under 30 seconds, and the rosebush in the side yard had come back like it always did, and the porch had 2 mismatched chairs instead of 1. I had almost not gone outside that first Thursday, had almost kept my stated purpose, the mail, not more, and let them settle in without me. Had almost, every evening since, kept my careful distance from the thing that was obvious to a 6-year-old from the kitchen. But I had gone outside, and I had been slow, and I had been careful, and I had been afraid of the wrong thing, but eventually, because Lily had run out of patience for it, I had said the thing, and she had already known, and the house, as it always did, had told me the truth.